And what the trauma field knows, all our trauma research says, is to treat trauma, the trauma kind of needs to be done. The person needs to be able to access safety in order to start to address and heal the trauma. Well, when you're dealing with partner betrayal, you're doing a whole different kind of work because you're actually trying to come alongside and work with the trauma while it is happening and while the person is unable to access safety and full safety in the way that they need. So it's very chaotic working with betrayed partners because of that dynamic. It's very complicated. So I've tried to create a conceptual framework for how to understand it so that both clinicians and clients can get their heads around it. So the Braving model is the conceptual framework.
Partner betrayal is disorienting, heartbreaking, and results in absolute confusion for the betrayed partner. You worry that nothing in your life was real, and you fear that you will never be able to trust your spouse or yourself again. Well, welcome to the Rebuilding Trust podcast with Carol the Coach. I'm Carol Jurgensen-Sheets, aka Carol the Coach, and what I can promise is that when you listen to my podcast, you'll begin to believe that there is hope. We will be hearing from experts all over the world who specialize in problematic sexual behavior, sex addiction, and infidelity. Together, we will be asking them the hard questions about how you both can rebuild safety, find strengths, grieve and mourn what you had, what you never had, and what you fear you will never find again. The truth is that rebuilding trust is possible, and I am going to show you the steps to working together to build a whole new marriage based on the honesty, authenticity, and transparency that your marriage deserves. Rebuilding Trust with Carol the Coach.
Hello there. This is Carol Jurgensen-Sheets, and welcome to Rebuilding Trust podcast. And I feel like I'm really with one of my mentors. We both believe that couples can repair if it's done properly. And Michelle Mays has spelled out how to do that in her latest edition of her book. Michelle, welcome to Rebuilding Trust.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I am too. Now, tell me a little bit about this latest edition. What made you decide that you needed to re-edit?
Yeah, go back, revisit it. Um, you know, I so in the book, I'm laying out a new attachment-based model for working with betrayed partners in particular. And as I've worked with the model and just deepened my thinking about it, deepened different parts of it, I felt like I needed to go back and sort of clarify some things, add some graphics, add a couple new chapters, expand one chapter. I just felt like I needed to put some more depth in it. And so I did that. I went back through and added some new material, clarified some things, clarified some terminology, um, just to expand the model as my understanding of it is deepening because my understanding of it keeps growing as well.
And so this book, this new edition came out when?
In March of this year.
So what's the feedback?
It's interesting because I see people reviewing it online,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't heard a lot of like direct to me feedback. Sometimes I think putting a book out in the world is an interesting thing because you don't always know.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't been hearing back specifically about the second edition. I keep hearing about the book in general. A lot of feedback about that, of course.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the book because I know that professionals are reading it, but so are partners.
Yeah, it's actually written for partners. So I'm really happy that clinicians are reading it, but I actually wrote it for the betrayed partner.
Mm-hmm.
And the book really looks at, I think the name of the book is The Betrayal Bind. And what I'm talking about in that title of the book is the really specific injury that happens around sexual betrayal in an adult romantic relationship. Because in our long term romantic relationships, our partner is our primary attachment figure. And
Uh-huh.
so when betrayal enters a relationship with our primary attachment figure, it creates very unique dynamics. We are wired to turn to our partner whenever we experience distress. So normally our threat response system and our attachment system work really, really well together. We have a stressful day, we reach out to our partner. We have a thing with the kids, we reach out to our partner. So usually we feel distress, our attachment system prompts us to reach out. And that still happens when betrayal enters the picture. But the dilemma and what I call the betrayal bind is that now the person that our attachment system is prompting us to reach for is also the person who has hurt us.
Hmm.
And so the person we're being prompted to reach for also feels dangerous to our system and to our bodies and our nervous system. So what that does is it puts us in an incredible bind where we are wanting to reach for our partner, wanting to run away from our partner, then wanting to reach for them again, then wanting to run away again. We kind of don't know if we're coming or going.
Right.
And
And then it leads to that ambivalence of, am I doing the right thing?
yes, so it leads to what I call attachment ambivalence, which is when ambivalence is when we feel two competing things at the same time. So we're stuck in this, do I want to go towards you? Do I need to go away from you? Do I need to stay? Do I need to leave? Do I want to hug? Do I want to uh, throw water in your face? Like which thing am I doing in any given moment? And it's because these two motivational systems inside our body, our threat system and our attachment system, are now in conflict. Instead of syncing up and working well, they're now in conflict with one another inside of us. So what's happening is in your body, it's not in your mind, it's not in your head, it's in your body, this
Hmm.
conflict. And it's actually a well researched phenomenon. The research goes all the way back to the original attachment research with infants and toddlers and how they responded when they received less than nurturing all the way to abusive behavior.
Hmm.
So we just take that research and bring it up to adult relationships and look at what happens there. So that's what the book is about. It's about that bind. And then there are other sub binds that unfold from that main bind. And so it kind of walks you through all of that.
And aren't there six binds, six attachment styles? Five?
There are five. So there's the betrayal bind, there's a fear bind, a shame bind, a powerlessness bind, and a vulnerability bind. So those binds all come, the four binds come out of that big betrayal bind. That's kind of the big kahuna. And then the other binds unfold from it. So those are woven throughout the book. And you can kind of see how each one shows up in your life and how you get stuck in it, how you get stuck in the bind, and how to start to work with it.
Well, and anybody who has researched it all, betrayal trauma, partner trauma, knows that you are the guru in the field. I mean, you've used the research. You wrote this book. It's been so helpful. Now, I have not read the new book yet, but I promise to get it because it sounds like it has a lot of new information for partners that I need to stay on top of. You know, you talk about different metaphors, different names for some of these attachment styles or binds. I always said to myself, this should be called the betrayal bond because it really is the issues of attachment style that can change within the relationship as the relationship gets better or worse. So, can you talk about some of oh your descriptions? For instance, the tiger and cloaked control. You name that specifically.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, so within these binds, so if I think about kind of the model that I've laid out, there's these binds. And then when we're in them, when we're stuck in the betrayal bind, when we're stuck in fear, shame, and powerlessness, we have coping strategies that emerge for us when we're in that dynamic. And I've named six different coping strategies and I've given them interesting names. I think that's what you're talking about. Um, that are the strategies that emerge. And the thing that is important to understand about them is that they emerge from our attachment needs. So I think you're mentioning declawing the tiger
Mm-hmm.
as one of them. So that's one of the coping strategies. So when I think about declawing the tiger, the behavior that I see happen for my clients is, and this is in the aftermath of discovery, of course, when you're just reeling from all of it. But the behavior that I see happen is a lot of like anger, shaming of the person who betrayed, um, restricting power and autonomy in the relationship. Like we can't go there anymore, and you can't do that anymore, and you need to stop doing that activity, and we're never going to that place again, and you have to be home by this time, and you have to call me anytime you're doing anything, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff happening. And what I am doing in the book with these behaviors is trying to help people understand what is underneath them. What, because the behavior comes into our office as clinicians and we see the behavior, but what's driving it? And then I want my clients to understand what's driving it because they can feel so confused by their own behavior. They can be like, what
Mm-hmm.
am I doing? This is not how I normally behave. What am I doing?
But it's like a survival skill initially.
1,000% a survival skill. It's 1,000% a response to the binds that you're in. It's a response to what's happening in your nervous system and your attachment system. And so in declawing the tiger, here's the underlying dynamic is okay, so you, partner who broke the agreement, when you were at your full power as a human being in the world, walking around doing your thing, you used your power to hurt me. So now, in order for me to feel safe, I need to reduce your power. I need to somehow make you smaller and reduce you and restrict you so that I will not get hurt like that again because you showed me that when you're using your power in the world, like you'll hurt me. So so that's what there's an attachment need underneath the behavior, and that's the important thing to really understand. And the attachment need is I need you to be smaller and safer so that I could get close to you again.
Smaller and safer.
So that I could come near you again. Now,
Mhm.
there's all kinds of downside to these coping strategies. They don't actually produce what we want. And
Uh-huh.
that's part of what we look at in the book is like these strategies are normal. They're exactly what happens when we're stuck in this conflict inside of us. And we want to start to learn new strategies because these strategies don't ultimately give us what we're hoping for. So when we declaw the tiger by shaming our partner or reducing our partner, we actually just take a lot of the life and goodwill out of the relationship, and it doesn't actually create more safety for us. So we do it trying to find safety, but it often locks us in more conflict and more powerlessness in the relationship.
Okay. So would it be asking too much for you to identify what the five forms of attachment are? And then how do partners out of survival sabotage getting what they really need so that they have secure attachment?
Are you thinking of like the attachment styles that
Hmm.
people have? Is that what you're thinking about?
Hmm.
So, yeah, when I think of them, I think of four of them. But
Okay.
anyway, so you tell me, you add the fifth, the one you're thinking of. So I'm thinking of like anxious attachment, avoidant attachment. Is that what you're thinking of? Okay.
Yes, but I was referencing, I thought you had five attachment issues. And I said six and you said five.
Okay, I know it's like a lot of like tomfoolery with the numbers of things because there are five binds and there are six coping strategies. So it
Got
depends
it.
on which.
Five binds, six coping strategies. I love that. So the actual binds are
So the binds are the betrayal bind, which is the one we've talked about,
right.
the fear bind, which is in order for me to get what I need in the relationship, I have to risk doing things that might create more loss for me. Like I have to ask for something and my partner might say no, or I have to set a boundary and my partner might not respond well to that. So I've already experienced tons of loss. And now to heal, I have to risk more loss. And the fear is paralyzing in that bind. That's the bind, right? I have to risk more loss to heal. And the fear around that is what people get stuck in. So that's the fear bind.
Okay.
Um, the shame bind is about being caught in this place where no matter which direction you go in your relationship, you run into shame. So if I go toward my partner, I feel shame because this person just hurt me. And how do I have no dignity? Do I have no, am I codependent? Like, what's wrong with me that I want to stay with this person or be close to this person that just did this to me? So shame is there. If we move away from our partner, we also encounter shame because when we move into relational distance or we leave a relationship, there's shame about the relationship has failed. So we can feel shame. Or when we move into distance, we can feel shame about, I can't ever get what I really long for. I can't ever get the connection I long for. Something must be wrong with me. So the shame bind is no matter which way we're going in the relationship, we often run into shame and have to work through that shame and reduce the shame. So that's the shame bind. The powerlessness bind really goes back to some of those coping strategies we were talking about. The powerlessness bind is it's easier to sometimes stay in these strategies that make me feel like I have more control than to look at the fact that I don't have control over my partner, that I can only control me. And so I can only really make choices for me. And so when we are trying to control external, our environment, our circumstances, our partner, we're usually in powerlessness because we've walked away from where our power truly lies, which is inside of us. So that is the powerlessness bind. And then the vulnerability bind has to do with, okay, in order to heal, whether I stay with my partner or I leave, I have to figure out how to re enter into vulnerability relationally again. I have to figure out how to be vulnerable with the person who hurt me or be
Hmm.
vulnerable with a new partner. And the bind around that is to get the thing I most long for, I have to do the thing I am most afraid to do. And so we
Wow.
get stuck in that bind. So those are the five binds.
And so, can a partner have several binds? Because I'm thinking about my partners.
Everybody has all of them.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Everybody has all of them. You get stuck in them in different ways. Different ones show up at different times. And I think this is where getting clear on what they are and how they operate inside of you helps you feel less chaotic. You know, it
Mhm.
helps you feel like you have some language and some understanding of your own internal world and what's happening to you.
So, obviously, to my listening audience, we're talking to Michelle Mays. You see that on her screen. And she has re edited the Betrayal bind. And she's created these binds, if you will, and they fit partner betrayal beautifully. And she actually shows you what your survival skills have been and how they work against what you really want and need. And I know, Michelle, in my books, I go with, um, initially a man in recovery or a woman need to know what's going on in their partner's brain so that their behavior doesn't look so crazy, so they can have more empathy and compassion and not be as judgmental. That's what I know. And then the next thing I need for men and women in recovery to know is to be able to identify feelings so that they can identify their partners. But that third chapter is on what are her needs. And you have just been a pioneer in the field for being able to assess and define what partners need. And it comes out of these binds that are natural, normal, and responses to partner betrayal, correct?
Hmm. Yeah, they're the normal bodily based responses.
Okay, so tell me about some of your descriptors, Sherlocking. And yeah, go ahead. Hmm.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about declawing the tiger. I would say Sherlocking is kind of self explanatory, right? It's that endless need for details and new information and searching, searching, searching for what really happened here. It's putting spyware on things, it's putting trackers on cars, it's all of that impulse that most betrayed partners have surfaced for them after the initial discovery because they are
Hmm.
trying to figure out what has happened here. And what they're trying to do when they are doing that behavior is they're trying to contain their experience. So they're trying to figure out where does this thing begin and end? Like where are the edges of this experience? Because when you discover things and then you discover some more things and then you discover some more things, it feels like it's never ending. It's like you have no idea what your reality is. So when we can contain it, when we can find the edges of it, then we can start to think about, okay, this is now I can start to know my own reality. Now I can start to understand my own reality. So Sherlocking is all about trying to figure out where the edges of things lie and really like who is this person? So the attachment need driving the behavior is I don't know you. You are my person, but I don't actually know you. And I don't actually know what you're capable of. So I have to go find out. I have to go find out where the edges of this are. So that's what Sherlocking is. And again, there's an attachment-based need driving it, which is I need to figure out who you are because I can't come close to you again until I know you and I know who you are.
Okay. And so everybody understands that. We used to say it was seeking safety because the partner didn't think she knew the details and she didn't want to be duped again. And so she said, I need to go out and find out for myself, right?
Yeah, all of that is true. I think it is safety seeking. It is I don't want to be duped. I don't want to be lied to. All the nervous system pieces are true. The piece that I'm just adding to it is, and there's an attachment need.
Hmm.
And there's a relational need driving the behavior too, which is, I don't know who you are. You're a stranger to me now. And I have to figure out who you are and what you're capable of.
Yeah. And you have, I think, built an empire for partners of ways to understand themselves better and to find healthy, adaptive coping patterns as opposed to things that actually create more fear, more vulnerability, more shame. Um, can you tell us a little bit about your programming? Because it's brilliant and it's so comprehensive.
Mm. So, programming in terms of like, how are we building?
Your groups, your.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, we have a couple things that we have. We have our Braving Hope coaching program. So, that is our 12-week program for betrayed partners. And in that program, we're taking them through this model and we're working on it. And I'm coaching them. And Tanya, my mindset coach, is coaching them. And they're in a group and they're working through all of this that we're talking about. So that's our coaching program for betrayed partners. And then we also have a mastermind that we do for couples. And my colleague Bruce and I, Bruce Butler, who is EFT, emotionally focused therapy for couples, and CSAT. We're both EFT and CSAT trained. We take 10 couples and we walk with them for a year and in a group. And so everybody is doing their couples work in front of the group. And then the group is processing it together and having a group experience around doing your couples work and healing things. So those are our two big programs. And we also have a 12-week program for men who are dealing with compulsive sexual behavior and are needing to do the initial task work of recovery. So they haven't defined sobriety, they haven't looked at what is really driving the behavior underneath. They haven't, done relapse prevention planning. All of that kind of stuff is what we do in that program.
Well, and
Uh,
who runs that?
that is run by Aaron Temple.
That's
So
what I thought.
he is a colleague of mine in the CSAT, and Aaron
He's
runs
in
that.
Indianapolis, Carmel.
In your backyard. Yeah, I know
Uh-huh.
you know it well. Yeah. So he runs that group, and actually we have one about to start in June. So
And that's what I mean about she runs an empire. Because we both know it takes an empire and comprehensive services to create good mental health and good attachment. And so, are you doing any research on the work that you're doing?
do I have any actual research projects running?
Uh-huh.
I do not. Like honestly, I don't have time for that.
Uh-huh.
It, I also feel like honestly, I feel like my best skill is gathering all the research and making sense of it and synthesizing it and then making it accessible for both clinicians and clients. I actually feel like that is my better skill set than actually being the researcher, like doing the research study, if that makes sense. So I don't have any
Yeah.
active research studies going on myself right now.
Well, I didn't know because I know that you have created that new model called the Braving model.
Hmm.
And that is based on the attachment you've been talking about today, the attachment styles. And tell us, is that what you've been talking about, or is that something different that our partners need to know about?
Yeah, no, so the braving model is the name of the kind of the whole model that has all of the injuries and the binds and the coping strategies and the capacities that you need to build to heal, all are parts of that model. So what I've
Mhm.
tried to do is really create a really good conceptual framework where people can really understand the experience of partner betrayal because it's a complicated, chaotic experience. And it's a very unusual experience for both clinicians and clients because most of the time when you have a client come into your office to deal with a type of trauma, it's a trauma that is finished. It's a trauma that's over, like it's in the past. When a betrayed partner comes into your office, they are often in the middle of an unfolding, ongoing trauma. They're continuing to discover new things. They're continuing to uh, uncover more secrets or more lies. They're continuing to understand where the money went or the impacts, health impacts. Things are unfolding. And what the trauma field knows, all our trauma research says, is to treat trauma, the trauma kind of needs to be done. The person needs to be able to access safety in order to start to address and heal the trauma. Well, when you're dealing with partner betrayal, you're doing a whole different kind of work because you're actually trying to come alongside and work with the trauma while it is happening and while the person is unable to access safety and full safety in the way that they need. So it's very chaotic working with betrayed partners because of that dynamic. It's very complicated. So I've tried to create a conceptual framework for how
Mhm.
to understand it so that both clinicians and clients can get their heads around it. So the Braving model is the conceptual framework. I'm going to be launching a training and certification program where I'm certifying clinicians in the Braving method, which is the how you do the clinical work.
Mhm.
And so that's coming, fingers crossed. I think I'm going to try to have the first cohort this fall. So we'll see about that. But that's all coming down the pike too.
Wow. So let me just reframe for everybody. You know, Michelle Mays is a licensed professional counselor, and she is the founder of the Relational Recovery Institute. And now she has a Braving Coach program that she's been running for about how long?
The Braving Hope program has been going on since 2020. Like we launched it in the pandemic, so I always remember that because it was right as the pandemic hit.
Right. Wow. And I wonder if that wasn't a good thing for you because people were really kind of stuck looking for resources.
Yeah, I think everybody had to turn and get online, and it was very timely for
Mhm.
people because it was like, what do we do? What do we do? And then it was like, okay, here's this resource, you know. I
And
didn't
so
know
what,
that it would work out like that, but it did.
well, and things always work out for the best. So obviously there were some good things that came out of that pandemic. Um, I know for partners, they felt like they had more of a handle on what was going on with their partners because they were home. And so there was some sense of safety in being together in the same place 24/7. Uh, where in the normal world, that would actually be very, very hard. So now Michelle has created what you just heard about, the braving model that has the four attachment styles, the five betrayal binds, and the six, uh, how would you refer to them?
Coping strategies, yeah.
Coping strategies. And as you can see, she does a really good job of not pathologizing anything. She understands how these things evolved in the way that they do. You're the queen of empathy because empathy means no judgment. And yeah, we don't want to have judgment. So now we've just heard that she's going to start a certification program for professionals so that they can learn this material and to do it right, to know what they need to know to really work with you. And having started a certification program myself with IRCAM, it just not only do you leave a legacy, but you leave people who are doing no harm. And when this all started with the internet, we found lots of trauma therapists, lots of therapists in general, that they didn't know that they were causing more trauma. And so this is exciting, Michelle. Is there anything else you want to leave with our listening audience? Because you're just, you're like a wizard. You just look at it from all perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think my last thing would be if you're a betrayed partner and you feel like you're sort of in the washing machine, that's what I always say, you're in the washing machine with it all.
Hmm.
Know that what's happening to you is not it's not something you're creating, it's not something you're over dramatizing. It's not something what's happening is in your body. It's also not something that's in your mind and you need to straighten out your thinking, right? This is a bodily based experience that's happening to you. And when you understand it, then you can start to work with it differently. So I would just encourage anybody who feels like they're in the washing machine to have a lot of kindness and compassion and gentleness as you start to understand your own experience and work with it differently. And you absolutely can heal, and you are not going to be in the washing machine for forever. That's the other thing I would say.
That's right. So she leaves us with hope. And you and I both believe that out of great suffering comes transformation and a renewed sense of empowerment and sense of self. And that's what you've been doing for a long time with partners. Now, when did you graduate from your CSAT?
I don't know. I know I took my first mod in like 2004, and it was when there were only two modules. Um,
Wow.
and so it was back when it was, I think Patrick Carnes was doing it, like he was doing the training, and there were just 2 weeks of training that you did and stuff. So I'm not sure when I fully completed it, if it was 2006 or 2007 by the time I did the supervision, but it was around in there. I know it was like that window of 2004, 2006, 2007 kind of thing.
Well, I know I met you in 2006. I remember sitting outside in Arizona chatting it up, thinking this woman it really knows her stuff, and really you hadn't even gotten started yet. Michelle Mays, you are a pioneer in this field.
Baby therapist at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and don't you feel like the more we know, the more we grow?
The more we know, the more we grow. The more we know, the more we know we don't know. That's sort of what I feel like too. The more we know, we have to learn. So, yeah.
Well, Michelle Mays, thank you so much. So everybody go out, even if you bought the Betrayal Bind, please purchase it again. It has new information for you. And then there's all sorts of learning experiences that Michelle has started and is starting to help
Hmm.
you with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Stay tuned. Check out the website. We've got a couple exciting new things coming for partners. So stay tuned with all that because I think there are going to be some really good resources for people.
And her website is simple. It's www.michellemays, without an E, it's MAYS.com. And you also have, is it relationalrecovery.com?
Yeah, relationalrecovery.com is the counseling side of things, and that's where the training and certification information will be when we get that up. We're working on those pages right now. So that's coming and that'll be on that website.
Wow. Thank you so much, Michelle. Again, you're so inspiring.
Thank
Can
you.
you can you tell me why you made this your niche?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really came out of my own experience as a betrayed partner. So I was in a relationship with somebody who was dealing with sex addiction, and it was back in the 90s when people were like 90s and early 2000s, but people just didn't understand. They barely understood compulsive sexual behavior at all.
Right.
People were talking about it, they weren't naming it, they didn't know how to treat it, and they certainly did not understand being the partner of the person.
Hmm.
And so I also had grown up in a family where there was no exposure to the therapy world or mental health. I mean, zero, zero exposure to any of that.
Hmm.
So when I started going, trying to find help, it was like this whole discovery process for me of like, okay, there is this thing called the counseling world. There is this thing called mental health. Like, now let me try to get some help. And then I got help that was just not helpful at all.
Right.
And that was actually harmful in many ways. And so it took me several years to find actual help. And then when I did, I really was able to walk through my own recovery process and everything. And so that dovetailed with I went into school to get my master's and came out and I was like, well, let me start working some with betrayed partners because I got really interested in that process, not just in my own healing, like obviously my own healing was driving a lot of it, but then I also just got really interested in like, why is this counseling field that I'm learning not addressing this? Why is
Uh-huh.
this not being paid attention to? Why are there no resources? Why are there like hardly any books? Like what is going on here? And so I got really interested in that and really interested in like trying to figure out how do we actually start to provide things for this huge population of people. It's not a small population of people that are dealing with infidelity in some form in their relationship. So, how do we start to address it? And then that became its own interest and driver and, over the years and stuff.
Well, I heard an interesting statistic um, that Coldplay Kissatron thing with two people that looked like they were having an affair and they showed them and then they ducked and they hid. There are 3 billion people in the world, and that was viewed 8 billion times. Now, that means there were people that were looking at it over and over and over again. And I know that was betrayed partners. That wasn't cheaters, that was betrayed partners trying to understand what was going on with them to better understand what was going on with their own selves. And there's a whole story behind that. It's really fascinating. But that's about pain. And that's about, my podcast. 2007, one year into it, 52% of my listening audience, and this was for addicts, were women. And it was wives trying to understand what's going on with my husband. So I love that you're a solution and you just keep, you said the more you grow, the more you don't know, but you're really, you're brilliant in our field. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Okay. Have a good one.
You too.